Hey everybody, Watchlist time. 5 more recommendations, 5 more boutique Blu-rays, 5 films that I think you should probably check out. Catch you after the break. Hi everybody, welcome back to the channel. My name is Chris and I'm going to talk about 5 films that I've watched recently on boutique Blu-ray that I think you should check out, that are interesting for one reason or another. Maybe just one of the greatest films that I've ever seen, maybe, you know, a flawed film that has some curiosity in it, or something that is just so weird, wacky and crazy that I think everybody should see it at some stage. And I'm going to start with a classic 1930s film, from 1932 specifically, and it's Island of Lost Souls. We have lovely Charles Laughton here on the cover. Bela Lugosi's in this as well, although in a very much understated role. It is the Island of Dr. Moreau story, where somebody lands on the island, there's weird experiments happening on the island, and Charles Laughton's at the centre of it. Is he their leader? Is what he's doing right or good? What is the mystery that's going on here? I think it's a very well told and established story. There's a criterion of release of this as well. But I was surprised actually how effective the 1932 version of this was, because I was not expecting there to be such a high level of work being put into various aspects of it. So I think it's worth pointing out the makeup specifically. They didn't just have a mask that was the same for everybody that was in here. There's such variety. I mean, there's a bit that goes into one of the extras, about the absolute wide variety, how the makeup director or costume director just went to town and creating all these different versions of animal faces. And actually the story that develops in here, not only of is the morality of all of this, right, but also the kind of tenuous love stories that are in here, the kind of weird love triangle that's in here between our central character who's been dropped off in the island, his existing love from outside, and actually one of the people that's in there, the Panther woman. There's real humanity and depth shown there in the filmmaking. I think it's really a testament to the ambition of the film and what they try to do, that they try to have this real breadth of storytelling in it, because on the face of it, like a 71-minute runtime, not very long, seems like not a lot for what I've just talked about, but they managed to fit a lot of it in, and because of that there's something to watch. Now the extras in here primarily are 2. There's one that's an interview with Simon Callow, who was a biographer of Charles Laughton, and then in a conversation with Jonathan Rigby, who, if anybody's watched any of the Indicator box sets, the Hammer box sets, etc., Jonathan plays a large part there. In fact, I'm pretty sure he's the author of American Gothic and European Gothic, some well-known books in those kind of areas. So that's Island of Lost Souls. This one's mastered as a cinema. There's a version on Criterion with colour artwork rather than the one that I have here. Next up is an Indicator release, and one of the very recent releases, and it's Pastor Hall, and it's a film from 1940. And when you think about what the intentions of this were, it's definitely one of those cases that truth's stranger than fiction, I think, sometimes. Pastor Hall tells a story, and it's based on the story of a pastor in a small village who speaks out against the Third Reich. You know, they've come into power and they're trying to control the message, and you've got somebody that's trying to preach, you know, kindness and being gentle to all men and inclusivity, and you have the Third Reich that are coming in and making their mark in the place and saying otherwise you can't be saying that, and he's taken and put into a workers' camp, concentration camp or otherwise. Now this was written in 1940 before the true horrors, or this was released, sorry, in 1940 before the true horrors were really represented, what was going to happen, and it's very much a propaganda film about how dangerous Germany was, what could be happening at that time. And as it turns out, at the time, its release was delayed because it was banned in Britain because it was seen as dangerous and insightful and maybe worrisome to represent the German people in that way. Now, as it turned out, what they were putting on the screen was only a modicum of what actually was going on. It's a drama where you have a very well-meaning man and principled man, and then you have the nastiness of the Third Reich. And now there's a moral tale in here as well about, you know, people and characters that are good, and the people that are going to contribute positively or negatively to society and community in general. But it's an interesting watch from the perspective of being a propaganda film before people really knew what the hell was going on, and what way the message was being contorted and distorted and controlled in these places. Like I say, it's based on a real life character who was a pastor that spoke out and spoke clearly. They have got that as an extra in here. They explore that a lot in the extras that's gone on here, as you would expect from any indicator release. And while it's not this like incredible film, I think it's like a marker in the sand of a dramatization of the issues that were around, you know, mid to late 30s in Europe, and what the fears were of some people and how they tried to use art to raise awareness in and around that. And, you know, flawed film it may be, it has a couple of really great centre performances. A really interesting release, and one that I think is well worth checking out, especially, you know, in the slew of what is World War II films. You know, I would say this contrasting with something like Distant Journey that's in second run or otherwise. You know, you see what the thought was of what the danger was and what the reality was in very stark terms in and around the same period, one slightly before the events, one slightly afterwards. I think it's a really interesting but somewhat gruesome or strugglesome double bill. Next up, we're back to Imprint. Now, back to Imprint with, you know, spine number 97, and this one is from 1954, and it is The Country Girl, starring Grace Kelly, Bing Crosby, and William Holden. Now, this is very much a William Holden film, if you ask me. It's very much a vehicle for him, even though Grace Kelly won the Oscar for it, rather controversially at the time. And The Country Girl tells the story of a stage director, played by William Holden, who wants to cast a guy that's been forgotten about as part of his lead in his musical. It's Bing Crosby. Bing Crosby seems to have disappeared after, you know, a family tragedy, and the fallout of the family tragedy has affected him. He's struggling or otherwise, and his wife is in the background, played by Grace Kelly, who may be helping him, maybe a burden on him as well. They seem to be a codependent couple. You have what is essentially a melodrama in here, even if the elements of the melodrama that they really use are not the elements of melodrama that they should be playing on. I mean, I'm a self-confessed lover of melodramas as a genre, but it has to be done right. There's good examples of it and bad examples of it. And unfortunately, one of the big aspects that they use in this nearly made me turn the damn thing off. I'll warn you now, there's something that happens towards the end. You just go, oh, no. There's no reason for that otherwise. It smacks of studio interference, to be perfectly honest, because it's kind of done and thrown away so quickly in the film that you kind of think the director was made to put that in, the writer was made to put that in so that it was present, but there's no justification or need for it. But aside from all that, you get some really great performances. Obviously, Kelly's very good. I do think this is one of the first cases in Oscar terms where somebody got the Oscar for making themselves less glamorous than what they normally are. So there's been numerous, you know, examples of that later on. I mean, Charlize Theron for Monster, you know, taking somebody that's very beautiful and kind of representing themselves as, you know, not that. It helps in the performance. Kelly's very tawdry and dressed down through most of this, and then you're kind of just seen almost as a hate figure for a lot of it. So you know, overcoming that, I think is why she got the Oscar for it. I don't really think it's a particularly Oscar-worthy performance in around the thing. I think, like I say, it's Holden's film. I think Bing Crosby is quite good in it. I mean, it uses Crosby to all of his strengths in dramatic terms. You know, he's a song dance man in it, but he has, you know, a bit of pathos in him that makes him very believable and lets him carry it off without really having the depth of somebody great like a Brando or anything that are in around that time. And it's a really interesting release, as you would expect from Imprint. We have our two types of artwork. The slipcases always are vibrant, and these ones are maybe tawdry, again is the word. There's a really great extra in this that is there's no commentary, but there's also a Grace Kelly documentary which is about an hour long. It talks about her rise from, you know, failed actress to being a successful actress to then her own death many years ago, and lots of people speaking about the time. It's an archive documentary, but again really interesting, and one that I kind of ate up when I was watching. So a flawed film again, and one that, you know, definitely has its problems. If you've seen the film, tell me that it wasn't another one of those things where you just looked at it and went, oh, for Christ's sake, That's stupid. And both myself and my wife looked at each other and went, no, 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 no. That's ridiculous. But that aside, pretty good release, and pretty one that's interesting. If for no other reason, then you go, and why did Chris Kelly win that Oscar? Next one up is a real oddity, and again one that seems to split people right in the middle. I've just flashed it there very briefly in front of you. It's Bait by Mark Jenkins, who's a British filmmaker, and tells a story of this man who's a fisherman in a Cornish village, and it's very much a film that looks at the progress of industry versus traditional life of the old fishing villages that are there. The father has left the fishing boat to two sons. One wants to use it as a fishing trawler, which is our main character here, and the other one wants to use it for touristy, cruisy kind of things around the area. So doing pleasure cruises is probably the wrong word, but you know what I mean, those kind of things. And within that we have a village that's very torn between what it once was and what it has to be in order to survive. So we have a pub, and a pub again has been left to a junior member of the family, and it only opens for certain times of the year. We have another family that's taken over some of the house and is renting it out, so trying to build tourism in the area, and they think they're all doing well or right by themselves. You know, the pub owners also ban fish that are caught just on the beach from our main character here, so they think that they're contributing, and everybody thinks that they're doing their best, but nobody really seems to be that happy apart from the guy that is renting out the house, etc. And it's very much about this battle between this. Now, I'll come to the filmmaking in a while, but one of the reasons I really identify with Bait is because where we would go for holiday is very much one of these fishing villages. And there's been opportunities to modernise that village, to put money into it, to brighten it up, and the people there are very resistant to it. They don't want to give up their way of life. They're still farmers, fishermen, all of that kind of stuff, and they don't want to give in to that. And I could recognise an awful lot of that in here. Now, the film is shot very traditionally on a wind-up crank camera, or otherwise that's shot 2 minutes of film at a time. It's shot completely silent, and all the audio's edited in afterwards and recorded afterwards. It's a feat of filmmaking that's really incredible to see. Really something that'll it's very striking. Now, some people liked it, some people didn't. Some people thought this was boring, some people thought it was utterly fascinating. I definitely fall in the later camp. I think it's entrancing the whole way through. I think the drama that's built in here, just in silence from looks and from using the place that it's around you, is absolutely palpable. I think there's an awful lot more in this than you would appear maybe on first watch. It kind of feels like a typical boring, seaside place, but it has its own drama baked in. There's some wonderful character relationships. Our main character we see as a bit of a grump, but it's displayed about how much of a warm and caring and kind of community-based ethos he has as a person. It's just, you get the feeling for all of the complexities that are made up of small villages, a small village life in here. I think Bait's tremendous. The extra where Mark Jenkins talks to Mark Commode in it is also amazing. There's a commentary between them as well, where they go and explore all the people that are involved. It's very much a family affair, and I look very closely to the next Mark Jenkins film because I think it's terrific. And I think actually it's a dual format release with a booklet. I think this is reasonably rare. So if you see one with a booklet, I think there was only 1,000 or something that he's produced, and people seem to really want them or otherwise. And we're on to our last film, and again this is another oddity. It's a film that was released in 1981. Now, it's a film, and it kind of links and straddles with my interest in books and film at the moment, because it's been written and directed by a very prominent, well-known author. And that very well-known and prominent author is Michael Crichton. This is Looker. And Looker stars Albert Finney as a plastic surgeon who helps people become the most perfect version of themselves as they see it. That's what he does for a job. He's kind of got that God complex about him. Yet we have these young women who are getting improved by plastic surgery or otherwise, then going and testing themselves to see how perfect they are, and getting murdered and going missing. So it doesn't take a genius to know that, you know, where they get tested to see how perfect and beautiful they are for modelling purposes or for advertising purposes is somehow linked, because James Coburn comes across as a very shady, dodgy character within it. Looker is easily overlooked. I've seen the rating that's on Letterboxd for it. It's not very high. And yet, it predates something like Videodrome by 2 years. And Videodrome's lauded. Now, I'm not trying to say that it's a better film than Videodrome, but it has a lot of the similar ideas of how, you know, media and how TV and all of these things are being used to sway and influence people around them, and the negative effect that that can have. It kind of takes it to its extreme in Videodrome. It kind of goes halfway there here as well. I think that Looker's really, really fascinating. It's the kind of film that I could really see myself doing a deep dive off to explore a lot of the themes and a lot of the ideas that are in here. And like, Looker has a 3.0 or something on Letterboxd, and I think that's extremely harsh. Like, a lot of the ideas were definitely expounded upon and developed on by Cronenberg when it came to Videodrome, and he takes it to, you know, the nth degree, obviously, as he does. But Looker has loads of great ideas in it. Now, granted, character work's a bit hit and miss. I don't think Albert Finney is exactly the most natural choice for, you know, this leading man to be virulent or that is attractive enough for something like that. But, and I think of all the films that are here, Looker's probably the most widely seen. And if you have seen it, I'd love to know what you think of it. See if I'm absolutely off my rocker. See if I don't know what I'm talking about, or whether I might be on to something here with Looker as being a film that needs to be reappreciated, you know, some weeks later. This is the premium collection version, and pretty good version it is too. It's not, it could look better, of course. There's a archival introduction there from Michael Crichton, that obviously done around the time of the DVD release. And that is my watch list for this week. So 5 more interesting films to talk about, and then some films that are considered average that I think should be elevated a little bit upon review. If you've made it this far, thank you very much for watching, and I'll catch you again soon. Take care.